Welcome to US Rugby Happy Hour Live. Interviews with the biggest names in American rugby.
The New England Free Jacks, Major League Rugby champions. One-on-one to score.
Here are your hosts, Bill Baker and that other guy.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. This is US Rugby Happy Hour Live. I am Bill Baker. The other guy, John Fitzpatrick, is joining us shortly. He's a little preoccupied. This is the fun thing about doing live shows. You just never know what's going to happen. So we're going to talk about a couple of things before Fitzy joins in, before we get to our first guest. But tonight we do have San Diego Legion lock, former Glasgow Warrior, former Newcastle Falcon, former other players or teams as well. Greg Peterson joining us here in a couple minutes, and later on the show, Jaz Gray, up and rising star of the USA Sevens program, fresh off of the Hong Kong medaling for USA, and silver medal. That's great. So we'll have her on in about a half an hour. But for now, a couple quick news for our listeners. Big news came out last week. We're really excited about this for the show, for US Rugby Happy Hour Live. We signed on with a podcast network out of Europe, the Sports Social Podcast Network. They are Europe's biggest sports podcast network, and they're working their way into the American scene as well. We're really excited to join this team. Looking forward to them helping out with our show, get more listeners, and promoting the show as well, and maybe get us a couple bucks out of it. You never know. So we are so excited to be joining up with Sports Social Podcast Network. So check them out. They got a lot of great podcasts on there, some really good rugby podcasts as well. Sports Social Podcast Network. Also, news just came out recently, a little bit today. I missed it earlier, but I just read it again. There's been the announcement of a Women's Elite Pro League here in the United States, the first ever pro league for women. Player compensation, full-time staff for each team, and I believe it begins in 2025. I read that quickly. I had to read it really quick before we get on here. Check that out. Get online. Look for that news. It's really interesting, and I'm really excited about it for the women's program, for the USA Eagles, and for all the other women who don't make the USA program as well. It's a really big deal. Finally, speaking of women's rugby, USA faces Canada for the first time on home soil. USA hasn't played on home soil, the women's team, in years. They are facing Canada April 28th in L.A. It is not official yet, but it looks like it will be a doubleheader with an MLR side with the RFCLA. Looks like against New England for that match. No confirmation yet on that, but so don't hold me against it. You can get the link on our website, eaglesoverseas.com, or in the newsletters as well, or if you just get online and look for ticket sales. If you use the promo code EaglesOverseas or Rugby Morning, you get yourself 10% off your tickets. So especially those in California, no excuse. Get yourself some tickets, go to the match, and cheer on our USA Eagles against Canada. And lastly, if you are listening to us right now or listening to the podcast as well, follow us on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube, follow us on our social media channels, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, etc., etc. Please do that. Like, follow, and subscribe, and share this with your friends and family and enemies. We don't care. Let's get people listening to this. Also, lastly, I lied. One last thing. If you're listening in today, live on the show, go ahead and leave some comments in Facebook, YouTube, whatever. And I'm going to see the chat. I'll see the comments pop up. We will try our best to get them on air for our guests or for myself. And like I said, John Fitzpatrick will be joining us shortly as well. With that said, let's get into it. Our first guest is waiting very patiently. This is his third time on the show, and I believe probably 3 different time zones we've had him on as well. So let's all welcome San Diego lock, Greg Peterson. Hey, Greg.
How are you guys? How are you, Bill?
I'm good. You can say guys. There's listeners and other people around here.
Yeah.
So how's it going? How's the town of San Diego treating you? I mean, it's not exactly Glasgow weather.
No, it's not. As you can see, it's blue skies and sunny outside. So it's been really nice here. It's obviously big old quick change going from Glasgow, then pretty much straight over to here, straight into pre-season and stuff. But by the time we had our 3 months in Glasgow, both Tess and I were looking forward to some sun and some heat too. So sand between our toes, but it's been really good so far. Really good. Kids been really enjoying it. You might hear them in the background, so I apologize, but it's been really good so far. Really accommodating.
So is it safe to assume she had you gave her a list of teams you can go and you choose?
There were definitely a couple teams that with San Diego being at the top of the list, and yeah, pretty much it came down to just quality of life. We it's very much to like it's San Diego is very similar to where both Tess and I grew up in terms of like Sydney, Australia, and Coffs Harbour. So, very similar lifestyles. The other teams were really interesting and had great programs, and a couple towns that I absolutely loved. But just in terms of the quality of life, I knew a bunch of players here that had kids the exact same age. We're living in the same pretty much apartment block as them. So, after training, they all come outside, they all rip into each other just like we did before that.
And I mentioned the Warriors a minute ago. Have you been keeping track? Obviously, they're doing well in URC, second place, right behind Leinster. Unfortunately, bowed out of the Champions Cup last week. Obviously, you've been watching the team?
Yes, I have. Yeah. They had a hard one on the weekend against the Quins. It's always tough. You get that many penalties in the first half to come back. They've always got the fighting spirit and they got the firepower to be able to get through it and stuff. And they're signing a lot of the good young players. So, it's always tough when you bow out of the championship. But I think they'll do really well in terms of the league now that they've only got focused on that. And they got good young talent, depth stepping up too, which is just helping them phenomenally.
Is there a small part of you that wishes you were still involved in what they're doing right now? Nothing against San Diego.
Always, it's definitely like a hindsight thing. Like I would have loved to be able to go there and contribute more. I was pretty happy, like knowing from the start that it was short term, and I think I played 9 out of the 10 games. So and I helped them, knowing that I left there and they're in a pretty good position, and that hopefully they just carry it on. If they do go all the way, then I'll be hitting Franco up for potentially a medal. But no, like I really enjoyed. We really enjoyed our time there, and it's always bittersweet. But again, like the family, the quality of life of the family has been absolutely unreal, and that's to see your kids happy at the end of the day. That's sometimes better than a medal.
And we won't get into Newcastle season. You know how they're doing, and that's got to be tough on those guys. Real tough year for them. So let's pass that. I just wanted to mention that. Let's go over that. Shouldn't even brought that up, but let's go over that. So before we get into MLR specifically, you were out for a week or so, nicked up. Can you talk about that at all? Are you good?
Yeah, just tweaked my back. Nothing crazy.
Oh.
Just took a little bit longer than I thought, but then it's quicker than everyone else thought. So feeling good now. Back to full training and stuff. Still got a couple more boxes to tick to be fit and selected for this weekend. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, feeling miles better. It was a bit of a crazy scene because, for a couple of days I almost couldn't walk, but it's all good now, so I can't complain.
Okay, and let's mix up MLR before we get to San Diego straight up. Let's go MLR and what your experiences overseas with Prem and URC. Have you noticed, people always ask, like they want to know where MLR kind of ranks as far as the league goes, but other than the competitive side, is there many differences between the style of play, say between MLR and Prem, URC, et cetera?
It's in terms of style of play, it's almost like picking and choosing. Like I could almost relate it back to the URC because you have so many different regions playing games in different ways, and then teams within those regions playing different ways also. MLR is very similar to the URC. You've got Houston who are just going straight South African power game and doing really well at it. You've got Dallas who are just throw it around with a really strong maul, so really good foundations and really good basics, and they're just throwing it around rugby. Miami, who's pretty much like full Argentinian style with a little bit of French jouet, etc. You're having to prepare for different opponents and different threats every single week, which makes it tough, but it's also good on the players. So in terms of learning week to week, it changes, and it's very similar to that. Like in terms of the way South Africa plays, like the Welsh teams play, the Irish teams, it's all completely different. You come up to new challenges each week.
And speaking of the injury, the back thing just happened recently. You're not old, but you're also not young. So what percentage of the week, and not just you, but many players, percentage of the week and what does it look like day to day as far as staying fit and healthy during the season?
Yeah, it's always been a big priority, especially as I've learned more about my body and what's good for it, what's bad for it, and what actually helps and what doesn't. Most of the week it's get in early, do a little bit of prehab, just manage the body, manage what's feeling good and what's poor. Try and stay off the physio table a fair bit. Like I pretty much hadn't been on it until the past week. But yeah, the body feels good. It does take a lot of time to manage, and if something does spring up, like I've had a bunch of shoulder ops and stuff, so as I call it, if they get a little bit grumbly and stuff like that, then just uptick a little bit more on that maintenance, and same with other things. And I also know my body quite well in terms of if I'm feeling poor or sluggish in certain areas of the game, then I know like certain S&C conditioning stuff that I'll top up on, and not to overdo it too. So I think it was really good. Like while I was at Newcastle, because I was playing so much, I really had to learn and learn quite quickly in terms of what benefited and what didn't. And
Yeah, gosh, I remember that Newcastle year. I think you and I talked back then also, and you were logging amazing minutes. I think I even asked you if they had a reserve lock on the bench because you were in there so often. But that's got to take a toll on you, all those. So you're right. You really have to be disciplined on everything from diet to fitness.
Yeah, definitely. And it does take a toll. And kind of after that season, like there was some overhanging factors that made me push so hard that season also. Post COVID, there was a couple of incentives that I needed to hit, and they're pretty outlandish incentives. And I also kind of sat there and said like, I want to do this as a personal challenge to myself. So I set that out, and I got it. I was absolutely stoked. But then also I sat at the end of the season and said, don't really want to do that again, because that was I put myself through a ringer, especially like that period of time. I think it was like December, November, January, where it was just game after game, week after week, and I kind of learned from that. Like, right, I probably got to be a bit better in terms of maybe speaking to the coaches, but then also the next season, I remember one of the coaches saying like, yeah, we want to bring in a better rotation policy, this and that. And almost the same thing happened. The only thing that hindered me a little bit was a red card that gave me 2 weeks, and that was about it.
Yeah, that's right. Don't do that again.
No.
So going back to your decision to go to San Diego, we talked about a better, a good life for your family, obviously the kids, wife, and yourself. Let's talk more specifically about the team. San Diego seems to have a bunch of former players you played with, say Brocky, whoever else with the U.S. Eagles, and you're familiar with many others like No. What was the draw as far as the team goes? Coaching, the players on the roster. What was that draw?
Well, I think besides the players on the roster, like one of the big things was that they said like they lost half their team. After that last final, they lost is essentially 50%. We've got a new boy check-in where everyone partners with one of the other players, and everyone talks about that. And it's literally half the team, which is in any organization is absolutely insane. And when you come to a team sport that's closely needs to be super closely knit, it has to be that stuff takes time, and it usually hinders that performance. But I think the boys that did stay were a pretty good backbone, and they've carried that on really well. Like day one, culture was there, community was there, everything was there, and it was pretty much just buy in or beat it. And everyone that did come in was really excited to be there. Everyone there wasn't an excitement about it, but then there was obviously the overhanging thought of the daunting task that is ahead. Trying to go one better that they did last season. But yeah, in terms of the draw to come here, very much the players that were here, the facilities that they had, the coaching staff. Danny's great, Alex is great. Working next to Isaac Ross also, it's I've really enjoyed it, and it's almost been not a player coaching role, but also in-depth, heavy communication with them in terms of what we need, what we don't need, lineup menu, etc. It's a bit of a change to what I've usually done in the past, where we've had extremely good coaches. Not that the coaches here are poor,
Yeah.
but extremely good coaches that have done it for a long time, and they never dictated, but they did always create good plans and stuff. So I've enjoyed a little bit of change of trying to help with that too. But yeah, the main overarching thing was definitely just the quality of life for the family. Yeah.
And like you mentioned, a lot of new players, yourself included. Legion have gone quietly 4-1, and when I mean quietly, kind of under the radar as far as the excitement around Houston being undefeated, Dallas being competitive, really competitive this year. What is it with the team right now? Why are you after that first loss? The bounce back. What is it with the team that's really turned it around and being one of the top teams in the league?
I'm not sure if there was ever a turnaround. We had 2 preseason games against Chicago and Utah and performed pretty average and stuff like that. And then went up to Seattle. We knew that was going to be a big test, and I think we in terms of that test, I think we ticked a lot of boxes. And don't get me wrong, I would question that last minute or two without throwing mud at Peter at all. But I definitely question that last minute or two, especially I was a part of it. I think we just want to go about it. We've got our goals. We know if we operate at our top end, that we can compete with anyone and potentially beat anyone. But it's just that the big factor for us is just it's us. And we found that like the postseason, like when they reviewed last season, what they came out with, and what was potentially the downfalls. And in terms of addressing that, it seems like a lot of the big question is the huge advantage was ourselves, and also the disadvantage was ourselves. So trying to sharpen that up and be a little better in those areas. I think everyone's just wanting to improve and get better, and I think it maybe helps a little bit that part of the team has gone, because there's a little bit of the new blood, the new identity, so those same potential downfalls aren't there also. So yeah.
And speaking of Seattle, San Diego is well known for a great crowd, great atmosphere. Seattle, New England, a couple other teams are just well known for that. Did you feel that at all in Seattle? Their fan interaction, their environment?
Yeah, definitely. Like the field's really tight and close. You've got the stands super close. They're a very colorful crowd at times. But yeah, it's that's the good thing. Like what Seattle have done well is that they had the team there beforehand, the Seattle Saracens. I think they're even still operating now. There's a shit ton of past Eagles that play for that club that when I started with the US played for that club, and I always saw like, shit, these guys are pretty bloody good. And I think when you build on something like that, it makes it a little bit easier. You've got that fan base there. You've got that what do the old man call it? That tribalism that's already there, already built in. And it's the same with every sport. Every sport, every team has that tribalism. You need that in America, because otherwise it just, unfortunately, might just fickle out. But Seattle have done very well with that. Legion had to grow that up, and they're doing a really good job in terms of fan engagement. The stadium in which that we're playing in. There's a huge flag rugby community that they're building in here now too, through Escondidos, which is helping grow the game. You get the kids into it, and the kids are going to go to the parents, and the parents are going to go to the game. So it's always going to be a long runway, but I think it's building really well here. Yeah, really well.
I understand this weekend's match, the first 1,000 fans will be giving a Legion beanie. So I expect see you in a picture wearing one of them, and I expect to get 2 in the mail for myself and Fitzy. Anyway, speaking of your coaching staff, did I see, is Ryan Mattias joining the staff, or what is he up to?
Ryan's been doing a lot of the community stuff, so he's been really good with that, and pretty almost at the forefront with that. But no, he hasn't been doing much coaching. I think in terms of like small skill set with some of the back 3 boys he might be helping out with, but he's very much he loves the game, and what he wants to do is grow it and get it out there to more people. So he's just getting like, even then I was gonna like had a chat with him today, and he was getting to 2 or 3 schools after I saw him, and he's hustling and he's doing a brilliant job with it. And hopefully that flag rugby just kicks off more and more, and it helps everything around in this area.
And you have a new teammate coming in May, I believe, Paddy Ryan, who you played with the Eagles. Did you cross paths with him at all when you were playing in Europe?
No, unfortunately not. No, I think he was maybe in the champ, but not to my knowledge. But yeah, he's an excellent player. They've done really well to get him. I was even speaking to him when he's coming over, and he's excited. He's had enough of the English weather. But yeah, he's an extremely handy player, as you saw in those summer tests. So it's going to be really good to have him, and also it's going to add to our back row depth, where it's already pretty good where it's at. But competition breeds excellence, so it will be very good.
Of course, and switching coasts, Anthem Rugby. I don't think you guys have played them yet, or if you do this season, but
no, we do.
You're familiar with the team. You're familiar with why the team was set up with Scott and World Rugby and Alama. What's your impression of this team? I don't know if you really have any, maybe with Jake Turnbull, a few others you played with, but other than that, they're all pretty young. What's your impression about this team? I'm assuming you think it's a good idea as well.
Honestly, it's an unreal thing they've done. For them to be able to put this up so quickly with World Rugby's help and stuff, it's brilliant, because you look back to the Jaguars and how they were when they first joined the Super Rugby, and it's pretty much the same program and pathway. I think it's going to be absolutely brilliant for USA Rugby in the long run. Just getting people to play together, because you always see the teams that have academy players or young players come through together playing long times. Like it does great things. In terms of what they're doing there, I think their rugby's getting better and better. I don't think they're going to have a big fat donut at the end of the season. They're probably going to get 2 or 3 big scalps. It's going to be one of those games where if teams aren't switched on, they're gonna fold you. And it's right now, it's obviously they're just falling off towards the end of games, which is always tough to see, because you see them play so well for 50, 60 minutes, and it just falls off a little bit in the end. But that obviously comes with time together, experience, etc. But I know I spent a lot of time with Al in that summer tour, and a lot of time not just on the pitch, but like beside him, traveling, etc. I got to know him really well, and I know everything that he's going to do with them is going to be absolutely brilliant. And it's just a matter of time before they get one. It's a matter of time. And even talking to Jake a few times and stuff, he's really enjoying it too. So that's good.
Yeah, they have a nice facility there, decent little crowd the first game. I think you're right. I think they're going to definitely get a win or two this year. They're scoring points.
Yeah.
They got some. I mean, David Still alone is just so fast, such a good athlete, and I forget the kid's name, but they got this monstrous lock who played football in Charlotte as well. But I don't know. I think he's been injured since the first game, but gigantic guy. I mean, you're a big guy. This guy is just. All right, let's dab a little bit with the Eagles more. Yeah, no. You're slumping over now. Is that what you're saying? So, back on the pitch, hopefully with the Eagles this summer. Romania, Scotland on home soil. Excited about that. July 5th, I think, is Romania, a week after your last regular season game against Seattle, I believe, again.
Yeah.
That's normal. That's been the way it's been before, right? Pretty much a week together, right? I mean, so this is no different, but now you have a lot more players playing full-time, coming off of playing, not sitting down for 3 months. So you got to be pumped to get back on the field with the boys.
Yeah, the culture that we've created in that Eagles team the past 6 months with Scott driving it, it's awesome. And to be a part of that and to help with that and help steer it, I've really enjoyed it, and I've really enjoyed the challenge of it too, because it's something completely new to me. But I think the experience that I've had under other players and a bunch of clubs, both winning and losing, I think it's really helped me refine my thoughts on leadership. And how I want to do things. But in terms of like the actual like leader group too, they're all brilliant players like myself, Nate, Butch, David Anu when he's there. All these players like have their own huge wealth of knowledge, and it's made it really easy. And the thought of getting back together for those 2 test matches against, again, 2 big games, and then with the PNC also announced, it's super exciting. And the exciting thing is home matches. What's that? Yeah, come. Hold on one second. I'm just going to give the kids. Come here, Sammy. Give me a kiss. Kiss, bud. Kiss, Luce.
Remember those days?
Sorry. Yeah. I'm thankful that they still kiss me back, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super exciting to get back in that environment because there's so much growth in such a short period of time, and even though it will be straight into a test week scenario, which it definitely it has been the past couple of tours, and especially when I started up, it always was that way. But the thing that gives me a lot of, that I'm excited for is that when we played that Toulouse game in Salt Lake, the onboarding of everyone was super quick. There was no, we didn't have to take it 2 extra 3 sessions or do multiple walkthroughs in the car park at night and stuff like that. Everyone was right on it, and we got into training and everyone was flying, and just smoking each other too. So what Scott's done is awesome, and I can't tip my hat enough to him in terms of turning the program around to where it was and where it is. And it's always exciting. It's always exciting to be picked and to still be in the selection, still be a part of it. It's something that I always cherish and always love, and it's a labor of love thing.
Now, wearing the USA jersey, you're all extremely proud to put that on, and you play as hard as you can for the team, for yourself and the team. But Scott seems to really introduce this, what do you want to call it, this desire to have players, you, whoever else, die to wear the jersey. Let's say, not die. Die may be a little dramatic there, but wear it more with instead of just pride. I don't even know where I'm going with this. Instead of just pride, but desire or something like that. More maturity to wear the jersey. Am I coming across with that at all? It just it seemed like in the past some players maybe weren't playing with maturity, but it seems like now this group is.
No, definitely. It's Scott's definitely changed in terms of the mindset. We brought in this Eagle 365, which is being an Eagle every single day. It doesn't mean if you're in camp or in not, or with your local team or wherever. You could be Don Bisag back at college, Eagle 365. That's how you hold yourself, and that's your standard. And that standard will rub off on other people too. So in terms of that, it's maybe not it's maybe just a higher respect for the jersey, and then how quickly it can also go too. We've had multiple ex-Eagles come in, speak to us, people that I've played with, and then come in and talk to their meaning. And, even me, myself, being at the back end of it, I share it as much as I can, because I look back to a lot of those tours and, all of them with absolute fondness, and also in terms of what it gave to me in my career, opening the door to Europe and letting me play over there. I can't thank it enough. So I just do everything I can to put it in a better place each time I put it on, and be a part of the boys. So in terms of the organization and everything, and I want the organization to do well. Yeah.
And lastly, Greg, are you prepared to wear the captain's band again, or are you saying please give it to AJ? That's too much responsibility.
I'm a servant. I've always been a servant. I've in terms of chieftain and Indians, I've always played my game as being an Indian. Just knuckle down, do the work, do your job, and that's it. If I get the honor to do it again, then I'll wear it with pride, and hopefully I'll direct the boys around well. But yeah, man, if AJ wants it, he's someone that definitely deserves it too. He's done really well with his career, and in terms of his pride for the jersey too, I'm not fussed. I'll happily be a servant to USA Rugby, and I'll put my hard helmet on and go to war any day.
Greg, man, thank you so much for talking again. Good luck with Legion. Great. I'm excited to see you playing again this summer with USA. Looking forward to talking again soon.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Bill. Take care.
See you, Greg. All right, that was Greg Peterson, USA Eagle. I forget the number, 458 or something like that. San Diego leading lock as well. Great talking to him again. Like I said, he's been on the show a few times. World of wealth. He's played in a bunch of different leagues, so it's good to talk to him about all that. He's got, again, good detail on Glasgow Warriors, who are doing well in the URC right now. Newcastle Falcons, who are not doing well in Premiership, and then a couple other French teams and others. But now we're going to switch over. We're going from one Eagle to another. And the next Eagle coming in, she's freshly back, probably still jet-lagged, from the biggest sevens rugby party on earth. Let's all welcome Jaz Gray. Hey, Jaz.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Well, thanks for coming on. Are you jet-lagged at all? When did you guys get home?
We just got home early Tuesday morning, about 3 a.m. So, yeah, a little jet lag still, but I'm handling it.
Slept in, hopefully, at the very least.
Yes, sir. Yes,
so
sir.
congrats on medaling in Hong Kong. It's good to see the team doing that now, going into the summer as well. So, talk about the performance of the team this weekend in Hong Kong.
Oh, yeah, we're super excited to make it to a final, our first one of the season. And we're just, like you said, just going up, up, up. So we're really trying to make sure we peak at the right time with the Olympics coming up this summer.
Yeah. And one of the matches, you came right off the bench, 80-meter dash to put away the match. I don't think, I guess I don't think it matters if you've been in the game since the beginning or come right off. 80 meters is a long way to run. A little burnt out at that point.
A little bit. Yes, sir. Yeah, I think even after the game, some people were asking, how I feel about being an impact player. So I think coming off the bench really kind of helped me be able to see what was opening up in the game.
Yeah.
So it was pretty special.
Yeah, I can see that getting tough to get used to. I know as an athlete, competitor, you want to play every minute, obviously. Not everyone can, but the team, it just seems to be working really well together. Ilana's back healthy, playing well. Lev is always playing well. I saw a great clip of Sammy Sullivan, arms stretched out, getting into the crowd atmosphere and probably saying a few choice words I can't say right now, but Is that just a general team atmosphere, or was that kind of part of Hong Kong? Because Hong Kong is just a huge party.
It is. I think it's just a little bit of both.
Yeah.
We're all competitors, but being in Hong Kong, the atmosphere was like no other. The stands were packed from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. or to whenever the game's in, and the crowd is just so into the games. And a lot of the other tournaments we go to is kind of like a big party, and so sometimes people are not necessarily paying attention to the game. But in Hong Kong, the stadium was just in an uproar from 9 a.m. to whenever they ended. So I think it was a little bit of both.
Now, was this your first event since Perth?
Yes.
And can you talk about that at all? What happened to you in Perth?
So I ended up hurting my foot, got a mid-foot sprain. So I was out for Vancouver and LA, and I was able to come back for Hong Kong. I initially was not on the squad, however, but someone else got injured, so I was pulled up to go. So that was nice.
But it must have been a downer a bit, because it was your chance to play in front of family in Vancouver or LA. I'm assuming family would have came out if you were on those rosters to begin with. But I mean, that could have been tough. That must have been tough to take, right?
It was tough. Whenever you don't make a tour, it's always tough, whether it be for just not getting selected or for injury. But we have a nice culture where we put the team first. So I knew that, even though I wasn't able to go, that other people would step up, and which they did, and we were able to pull out our best performance to that date. Now it's a little better, but in LA. So it was a downer, and I've always wanted to play on home soil. I haven't been able to do that in my career yet. So it was definitely a downer, but team first.
Oh, exactly. Now you've played in, I believe, 13 HSBC tournaments, lucky 13. still young with that. Are there certain teams that are a bit of a thorn in your side, like Canada, New Zealand?
I think for me personally, those teams are probably not as much a thorn in my side. I think some of the smaller teams that are like scratching at the bit would be like Japan is a very strong team, and I think they defend us very, very well. So it wouldn't be it would probably be that team that I would say is a thorn in my side, still trying to figure out how to break down their defense on attack. And they have some lethal weapons on their attack side as well. So trying to defend them can be tough. They run the loops very well. So I think it would have to be, and that might be surprising, but it would have to be Japan that I would say is a thorn in my side, and not even a bad thorn,
Yeah.
because I love that challenge, and I know that that's just going to make me a better player, getting better with attacking and defending their team.
And speaking of these stops, obviously fans can be kind of crazy and dress up in some pretty weird things. So I'm assuming you had some times where you just relax and check out, do some people watching. Have there been any crazy costumes, whatever you've seen in the crowd?
A little bit. I feel like they just, they never cease to amaze me. I saw some nuns in Hong Kong. I saw Hulk Hogan in Hong Kong, which was very well done. I thought it was the man himself, to be honest. So yeah, the costumes they just get better and better as the season goes, I think.
Let's speak of your game, Jazz. Everyone loves to score tries. Other than scoring tries, what part of the game do you enjoy the most? Are they offloads that lead to tries? Are they tackling? Are they 80-meter sprints?
I think for me, like chase downs are always like exciting, tiring but exciting, and just the for me it would probably be like the end of the game where you get to go off and you see the kids and they're like,
Oh, yeah.
autograph and hug and can you hold my baby, take a picture. Those things really kind of make it worth it to me because it's just like I don't know, it just makes me feel so special that people actually are fans of mine and fans of the
Yeah.
team. So that would probably have to be my favorite part.
I just got goosebumps with you saying that because I couldn't imagine, it wasn't that long ago where rugby players, at least American rugby players, that wasn't happening.
Right.
So yeah, you just said it. It's just such an amazing feeling to have someone want to get a picture with you or sign an autograph or that know your name. I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, that had to give you, like, the first time you heard that, what was that feeling like?
It was unreal. It was definitely very special. Even now, like I went up into the crowd to sit with my parents because they came to Hong Kong,
Oh, nice.
and there were kids that came down and wanted to take pictures. And I think my dad kind of looked over at me. And he was like, "You're a celebrity," and I was like, "I'm not," but I don't know. So yes, it definitely never gets old, and it's very special.
Do you take a bit of, let's see, responsibility? Is that the word I'm looking for? But oh boy, to perform well and say in front of these kids, and not just perform in the field, but just behavior. Not that behavior is an issue, but I mean, what's the word I'm looking for? Be a role model for these kids.
I For me, I never really think of it like that. Whenever I go out on the field, it's just to, just be the best me and make my parents proud.
Mm.
So I always try to whatever I'm doing out there is for them and to make them proud of me. So I guess that would be my responsibility is just making sure I'm, doing everything I can to make my parents and my family proud of me.
Oh, tell me they were crying up there when you were, scoring a couple of tries this past weekend. Come on, they had to have tears in their eyes.
No, I doubt it. I doubt
Oh.
it. I'm sure they were happy for me, but I don't know about the tears in the eyes.
Maybe the first time, maybe the first tournament you were playing.
Maybe.
So, Emily Bedwell, what's been her conversation with the team? I guess coming into now, I know you weren't in the last few stops, but I guess with this stop, as she said, is she saying anything about the Olympics, or is it just concentrating right now on the HSBC?
Yeah, I think her biggest message to us is just to be in the present moment and know that we're building brick by brick. That's been kind of our slogan going on this season. and just we can't like just skip to July. We have to build it brick by brick, and I think that's what we've been doing. In all of our meetings, we've had this trajectory, and we know that there's been dips, there's been highs, there's been lows. But
Yeah.
like I said, we're just trying to make sure we peak at the right time.
And then speaking of the Olympics, I know everyone still is working hard to hopefully get a spot on the Olympic roster. Have you given that much of a thought, if you're given that chance, what that would be like?
I can't say that I don't think about it, but I definitely think about it, at least once or twice a day. It's
Yeah.
something that I'm striving for and something that I want. But again, I know I have to do the work beforehand. So just making sure I'm staying in the present and putting in the work every day, because we can't just skip to July. Like I said, we have to do everything. Everything's a process. So just making sure I'm also just going brick by brick with my own personal journey. So that's really what I'm trying to stay focused on. But I do have those thoughts every day because that's what I'm here for. So yeah, I think about it a lot, but just trying to stay in the present and make sure that I'm doing everything within myself to put myself in the best position to be on that list.
So let's go back a bit, Jaz. How did you get into rugby? Because I think I read you were a 4-year college basketball player. How'd you get into rugby?
So I was after college, I majored in exercise science and I was a personal trainer. And from there, one of my clients asked me to come out to 15's rugby team or club team. And I didn't go at first. And then I was asked again. And I finally went out. And we were able to make it to the nationals for clubs teams that year. And then USA Rugby reached out to me to bring me to a 15's camp.
Wow.
And I went to a 15's camp, came back, nothing really like came of it that I thought. And then Emily reached out to me after and invited me to go play sevens in a couple tournaments. That was my first time ever playing sevens. And then after that, they asked me to come out to a sevens camp. That was in January of 2019. I went out to the camp, and Brownie was the coach at the time, or Chris Brown.
Chris Brown, yeah.
And after the camp, he like pulled me to the side and he was like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I'm a personal trainer in North Carolina." And he was like, "Well, you think you could do that here? Because I want you to come train full time in California." And at the time, I thought he was like, I didn't know how serious he was. I was just like, "Okay." And he was like, "We'll reach out to you and get more info to you." So I just flew back home and didn't really think anything of it. I was like, "Oh, he's probably just talking." And sure enough, like a week later, they sent me an email and some flight information. And then a couple weeks after that, I was moving out to California to train full time.
Wow. So hold on,
Yeah,
let's back up a second. You're from North Carolina. Are you a South Carolina fan? Basketball?
I am. I'm a Dawn Staley fan for sure. She's
Yeah.
she's 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 incredible. So yeah, we were actually watching the games while we were over in Hong Kong. We were like waking
Oh,
up
nice.
early to see it. So it was pretty special.
Yeah, they played great, and I've met her a couple of times. I used to cover the women's Final Four, and yeah,
Okay,
she's awesome. Yeah.
cool, cool,
Um,
cool.
yeah, it's great. Her and Gino in the same room at one point was kind of funny, but because she'll just speak her mind. Just all right. Back to rugby. What are your goals? We talked about the Olympics. What are your goals in rugby other than the Olympics? Are there plans after that?
I don't really have any like necessarily tangible goals. I think for me it's just about making my family proud and just being a
Mhm.
good teammate. So those are the things that I'm like still working towards and still trying to perfect. I love my teammates, and that's really what I go to work every day trying to do, is just be a good teammate. Um, and so I would think those two things are like my biggest goals with rugby. And of course, the Olympics would be great. Two
Hmm.
Olympics would be great. I would play rugby for as long as I can, or as long as my body will allow me. But yeah, I think those two things are just big on my goal list.
So one of your goals isn't to do a lot of TikTok videos like Alana does.
No, that's not one of my goals. I do like doing them, but no,
Yeah.
that's not one of my goals.
What about 15s? Any thought about going back to 15s?
I have not thought about it. When I watch 15s games, I just reflect back to the times when I played 15s, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, I don't know how I did that. They're on their feet for 80 minutes. I don't know how this is. Yeah, I don't know how. So I don't think that will be in my future, but I'm not writing it off for sure.
Now, training in basketball, college basketball, there's a lot of cardio, a lot of weight training, everything else. Is that pale in comparison pretty much to rugby sevens training? Is this like a whole other level?
It is definitely a whole another level for sure. I think that this is, and I'm 31 years old, but this is probably the fittest I've been in my life. Basketball, I thought was hard at the time, but training for sevens is definitely much harder.
And we asked our first half guest, Greg Peterson, kind of what the week looked like for him as far as training and recovery. What does that week look like for you?
So on Mondays we have our speed training. So we'll go in, we'll have speed training first. We'll probably have a meeting with the coaches and then a team meeting, just the players. We don't weight lift on Monday, but then we'll have another session that's just like, rugby things, whatever we need to tighten up. But it'll be like kind of light. It's just like getting us into the week. Tuesday is like a very heavy day, so we'll have like our tackle bits in the morning. We'll have weightlifting. We'll probably go to lunch, then come back, have a meeting to say what we're gonna focus on for the session, and then we have our big session, normally about an hour and a half. After that, we do recovery. You can sauna, ice bath, stretch, bike, whatever you feel like you need to recover. Wednesdays is also a recovery day, so sometimes we'll have like meetings, but mostly it's just used to recover. Some days we have to go into the center to like do meetings, or sometimes it can be remote. And but Wednesdays are mainly just focused on recovery. On Thursdays, we have speed in the morning. We'll have a meeting, lunch, and then we'll have our big training session in the evening. And then again, you do all your recovery at the end of the day. So Normatec, sauna, ice bath, hot tub, whatever your vice is for recovery. But recovery is mandatory, and you have to do 20 minutes of it at least a day. But most people end up doing like an hour of recovery, just depending on what they need. And then on Fridays is another heavy day, so we'll have like our tackling bits in the morning, a meeting, lunch, and then we'll have our big session in the evening. And then we might finish the week off with like some lineouts or scrum technical things. And then again, you just have your recovery at the end of the day for at least 20 minutes. And then the weekends, you have the weekends to yourself, Saturday and Sunday.
And you're not doing any of that, are you?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time on the weekends, you're sore from the week, so you're just like sitting around, still doing recovery. You might go get a coffee, maybe ride your bike or something light.
All right, a couple more things for you. There's one comment from a listener. I'm not sure what the name of this person is, but they ask, has Jaz always been a winger?
I have always been a winger. I would like to play other positions. I haven't gotten the chance to just yet, but hopefully, maybe if my career continues, then I'll be able to play some other positions. Maybe 9, hooker, or center would be nice.
Yeah. All right. And lastly, speaking of other players on this team right now, or the players you've played with since you've been with the USA side, any particular players that I don't know, you've kind of leaned to more as maybe a bit of a mentorship for you, or someone you just kind of follow the lead of and trying to learn the most from?
100%. I have two players that come to my mind. That would be Nicole and Naya. Nicole is like one of the fittest people on our team. Her mental is just so strong. Like she can really like do anything. She can, yeah. So I've always tried to like pick her brain or look up to her at how she approaches when we have like conditioning and just like her mentality, because that's something that I struggle with. So I definitely look up to her in that aspect. Naya, me and her have become great friends, and we play the same position, so we're always like going head to head with each other. She's definitely one of the best wingers in the world, hands down, on both sides of the ball. So I'm always picking her brain about, how can I defend better? How can I score more? And I think she does the same with me, because even though we both play wing, we're two totally different wings. So I would say those two people are definitely like mentors and people that I look up to. And if I have questions about things, those are people I will definitely call in a heartbeat. And yeah, I guess I wouldn't have met them had it not been for rugby. So I just appreciate them so much for that. And they're just two amazing people. And that's not just like I'm sure I could call them about anything, not just rugby things. So those two people definitely up there on my list.
And Naya's a little bit taller than you as well, right?
A bit taller than me, yes.
Well, just get low and tackle. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Jaz, this has been fun. Thank you so much for coming on here. Good luck in the. I hope to see you on the roster for the last two spots, and especially in Paris. So good luck with all that.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate it. It's been fun talking to you, and again, thank you for having me.
Thanks again, Jaz. We'll talk again soon.
Yes.
All right, that was a lot of fun. Jaz is I love all these sevens players. She's working away. She really wants to be on these roster spots, especially for the Olympics, and I get it. I mean, who wouldn't want to be on the Olympic team? So it's going to take a lot of work for a lot of them to earn that spot, and I really do think she has a good chance to do it. She performed well in Hong Kong. They won the silver. She started 2 matches. She came off the bench for the matches, scored a try off the bench. And she's putting herself in the right position, so we wish her luck for that. For those of you still listening in, early on the show, we had Greg Peterson, USA Eagle, and San Diego Legion lock. A lot of fun talking to Greg. Go back and listen to that. And again, both these shows will be released on podcast tomorrow, so check that out. And once again, thanks a lot to the Sports Social Podcast Network out of Europe, who we just signed a contract with last week. So we are now a part of their network. You'll be seeing and hearing more and more about the show, hopefully get in front of more listeners to build it. And, the whole term build it and they will come. I don't know. That probably doesn't work its way into rugby, but that's what I said. Anyway, thanks again. Please subscribe, follow, like on YouTube, on your podcast player. Share the show with your friends. Let's get more and more people listening to this. We love your comments during the show live, and we'd love to see comments on the podcast as well. So take a listen to past episodes we've had with Bill Gorn, USA Rugby CEO, Alex Magleby, the Free Jack CEO in Boston area, and plenty more. Charlie Jacoby, women's Eagle, who's now with Queensland Reds. We had her on a few weeks ago. Lots of good stuff, lots of great guests, and okay interview questions from myself and John Fitzpatrick. So check those out. Thanks again. Have a great night.